So guys, welcome back to a brand new Creature Commandos breakdown, and today it is episode 4, and I have to say, this is quite a big one. As I teased previously in my no spoilers review weeks ago now, episode 4 introduces us into what I would say is the larger plot at hand with Cersei's vision. Even though a lot of you have already known about this for a little while, given that they gave huge parts of this vision away in some of the promos and trailers the past couple of weeks. And this episode is also similar to last episode in how it focuses on another Creature Commandos origin story, and this time that was of course Weasel. And you also may have seen what I meant previously with how this episode did make me feel for that guy in where I really didn't think that was possible. Now also, as you guys know, I'm recording this in advance, but today is the day of release for the Superman trailer. So you should be seeing this first if everything goes according to plan, but keep an eye out on my channel for that crazy video ahead. But back to Creature Commandos episode 4. The episode picks up with Rick Flex Sr. and Alana Rostovic bidding each other farewell as he has to bring Cersei back to the US and figure out exactly why Cersei wanted to kill her. But meanwhile, we have Weasel's lawyer, Elizabeth Bates, going up to John Economos looking for Weasel, and she's actually voiced by Linda Cardellini. Now, John Economos mentions that he's on crutches because he was fighting off an alien invasion, which is of course a reference to the butterfly invasion in Peacemaker season 1. And I think it was that moment at the very end when he tries to jump over the fence, rush into battle alongside the rest of them, but he breaks his leg. Typical diebid there. Now, we also have Eric Frankenstein watching them arrive this episode. I'm sure many people were happy to see that, knowing that he's getting more into the show now. And he spots Flag talking to the bride, and already Frankenstein's getting very jealous, saying, you know, why is she looking at him like that? Who is he? The way she looks at him. So clearly, he just reeks of insecurity, and as he even says to the other guy there, quit judging me for not being able to grow hair on my face, as if it makes me some sort of baby man. And he's on a mission to get his bride, just like what we saw all throughout history ever since she was created. This guy just doesn't stop. Now, Elizabeth finally gets to Weasel, who she calls John, as in John Doe, but Flag also mentions the fact that Weasel was convicted of killing children. But as Elizabeth says, there was actually no real evidence for that, and this is where we get a very brief flashback to the moment where the police was firing on him as he was dragging a child's body. But as we know later on, it's a lot deeper than that. And finally, like, this is like the main portion. I'll get some more Weasel flashbacks later, obviously, getting to the end of the episode. But this is where we need to talk about the main stuff. We now get to Cersei being brought before Amanda Waller in the interrogation room, and she's being charged with first-degree witchy poo and Maleficent in the second degree. I love how Amanda Waller, despite how serious she is, has a bit of a sense of humor. Now, Cersei threatens to kill her, but Waller mentions her restraints which prevent her from doing magic, with Waller even doing a bit of a commentary on comic book characters, saying that she's just another red-headed waif in an inappropriately revealing outfit. Like, why do all of you supervillains need to be all sexed up all the time? Clearly, Waller does not agree, even though John Economos kind of digs it. So Waller, of course, asks what she was doing in Pokolistan, and Cersei reveals that she was trying to save their worthless lives by killing Princess Alana, and she offers, in this moment, to show Waller the future to prove her point, with John Economos even mentioning how her file does say that she's clairvoyant. So even though her hands are restrained, meaning that she can't cast some major damage spells, she's still capable of getting in your head. Now, Flag, naturally, I mean, I think I would as well, warns Waller not to do it. However, Waller wants to take the gamble just in case there is indeed something behind what Cersei was doing. So to connect all of these scenes together, we then jump to Cersei and Waller a little bit later on, and she asks if Waller is ready. And before Waller can even finish saying for what, she is like cast into this crazy vision. You can see like the neurons or whatever in her brain, screen, and it just invites her to witness, well, kind of the end times by the looks of things. So this is when we see, probably at this point, who is Queen Alana Rostovic, just considering how zombie-like the actual queen is, in the armor of her knights, sending forth the jets of Pokolistan, and they go out and drop a bunch of bombs, so she's starting war. We see freaking beams, like, kind of like, it reminds me of Halo, like glassing the planet, leveling entire cities, and then it cuts to seeing countless armies of Alana's knights just marching, quickly cutting to a bunch of captured innocent people just gathered in a pit, and none other than Gorilla Grodd standing over them. So Alana must have teamed up, obviously, with Gorilla Grodd to help take control of the US and maybe even eventually the world, as he's kind of game for that given his typical motives, and he would come in pretty damn handy with his abilities as well. Now, this doesn't guarantee we're going to see Gorilla Grodd anytime soon, but then again, you know, we did see in Peacemaker a gorilla beating the crap out of John Cena's Peacemaker, so like they can do it. But, you know, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But I still found that, like, super cool in of itself. Like, obviously, living, breathing DC Universe here. Heroes already out there. So are villains. So Grodd is out there. And I wonder how these two even connected. Maybe it was like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You can get what you want, Grodd, and I get what I want. But then we see the people running on the streets of Metropolis, but getting completely gunned down by Alana's knights. And we can tell that this is actually Metropolis because we can see the huge globe of the Daily Planet crashed down onto the streets. Then it cuts to the White House that's been taken over with Alana sitting in the president's seat. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we get the biggest part. And this is why I was kind of like, maybe you shouldn't watch the trailers, because I was looking forward to like breaking this down when nobody knew any of this was coming, but then they kind of gave it away. And it's not like major, you know, it's not that deep kind of stuff, but it's still a nice surprise if they didn't keep that in the trailers, even though there are a couple of things that you guys didn't see that they didn't include in the trailers. But either way, enough rambling, let's get to it. Alana's takeover gets to the point of her pulling off the death of all the world's strongest heroes, arguably. And there's some incredible Easter eggs here, and potentially things that will ripple out into the future of the DCU when we see some of these characters in live action. So firstly, of course, out of the Trinity, we see David Corenswet's Superman strung up, looking kind of crucified, with most of the other heroes impaled on a spike, but there are a few other crosses in the background as well, so I don't know how they decided who kind of got crucified. So even though this is a vision, let there be no mistake, this is canonically David Corenswet's Superman. This is his Superman design, his Superman suit. And in this vision of the future, with Alana Rostovic taking over, he is dead or dying. Now, as for the DCU Batman, technically our first canonical look at whoever's going to be playing Batman one day, I found this one interesting because notice how they put his cape mostly all over him, and that was most likely done because they don't really want to give away too much of his design, frankly, because it's most likely that they haven't got a design that they've decided on for him yet in that of the Brave and the Bold, which just makes sense for Batman because when we eventually get the Brave and the Bold and that gets further into development, during its pre-production, just like any other Batman film, they'll draw up a ton of different bat symbols and tons of different concepts for the DCU Batman suit, and then they'll pick one out. So for now, it's kind of like, here's enough to basically know, like, oh yeah, that's the DCU Batman. But what's also interesting is that they decided on a design for Wonder Woman, as here we see her on the right-hand side of the Trinity, and I guess they seem to feel confident in giving her that all-in-one classic Wonder Woman design, with her headpiece there even disregarded on the ground with all the skulls, which is just awesome to see. So yes, even though DC heroes obviously can have multiple suits, and this doesn't guarantee this is what the DCU Wonder Woman will be wearing when we first see her in live action, the fact remains, given that, as I said, this is David Corenswet's Superman suit, which matches the live action suit in the Superman movie, this is basically, canonically, what the DCU Wonder Woman looks like. And maybe they are gonna pursue that. Like, whenever they do cast Wonder Woman, they might give her that classic look that is maintained from this vision. Now, again, whether this vision is true or not, becomes true or is adverted, whatever you want to say there, she technically has this costume. But I've gone on enough about that. But I just found that interesting because behind the scenes, the fact that they gave us a good look at her kind of does signify a little bit that there's a good chance this is what she will, or like this is the design that they might go for. Now, as we cut to the shot of Wonder Woman's headpiece there, we can also see Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl. And yes, she's wearing the exact same suit that she will be wearing in James Gunn's Superman. Now, if you ask me, yes, even though this is just a vision of a possible future, since she's still wearing that suit, I do think, as I have said before, that even though, yes, one day she will go on to get the more comic book accurate suit like many of you wanted her to get in the movie, I really wouldn't be surprised if this Lord Tech suit she's wearing in the movie and in this vision will be the suit that she wears for the entire Superman movie. Now, I could be wrong, but I think that is what's going to happen. Also, with just what Isabella Merced mentioned with regards to how this suit reflects kind of where she's at this point in her kind of career. That's me paraphrasing there. But the way she kind of spoke about that, it got me thinking with how, it doesn't mean that she's not going to get something one day, but as of this movie, yeah, it reflects where she's at. Are they going to do the cliche tropey, pop up with a new suit at the end of the film? Maybe, but I don't actually think so. That will be one day, but for me, this vision solidifies my speculation, personally for me, a bit more. We also see Millie Alcock's Supergirl on a spike behind Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl with a very Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow looking Supergirl suit. Now, behind both of them appears to be Booster Gold with the kind of blondie yellow hair and suit. However, some people from the promos, kind of ruining this early, feel like it could be Animal Man, as there are indeed, and I agree with this, a lot of similarities to both of their costumes, especially at this kind of distance. So it's kind of hard to make out as the quality of the footage gets a bit blurrier the more you get into the background. But hey, if you have any theories as to if it's Animal Man or Booster Gold, let me know. But to the right of Wonder Woman, we have a Robin on a spike. Now, I think this is most likely Damian Wayne, as he will be the current Robin as of the Brave and the Bold movie, since Dick Grayson, as we've discussed many times before, is likely Nightwing at this point. And as we already know from James Gunn and Peter Safran, Batman already has quite a sizable Bat family by the time we pick up with that film. So for me, it just makes sense that this is Damian. Plus, the way his hair is styled here, which I know sounds kind of reachy, for me, it kind of seems to indicate that. Now, in another angle to the right of Superman, I believe we have Mr. Terrific kind of facing down on the spike. And to Superman's left, we actually have none other than Starfire, which I thought was a really cool choice to highlight, but also an interesting choice. Now, it could be nothing. I know I get ahead of myself sometimes, but they could choose any heroes to present in these shots. And given that we have a rumored Teen Titans movie being written by Anna Nogueira, the writer of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, reported by The Hollywood Reporter, a major trade, it makes you wonder if they put Starfire on this spike on purpose to kind of be like, hey, maybe we want you to see a Titan there because we might be doing some Titans things. Now, behind Starfire could possibly be Guy Gardner, given the color scheme going down the leg to the boot. Of course, you have Peacemaker dead on the floor with Vigilante on a spike. Now, there was only one that I wasn't initially sure about out of this entire cameo of dead heroes, and it's this one to the left of Batman and Vigilante. But I think it could actually, funnily enough, be Judo Master from Peacemaker alongside Vigilante and Peacemaker himself. I wasn't sure initially because you have that cowl and then you cut to another angle of it and his cowl is like super close up. And after looking at it a dozen times, I think I would put my bets on Judo Master, which is just kind of funny to imagine Judo Master fighting alongside Superman and Batman and whatnot. But hey, Vigilante and Peacemaker are there, so maybe that's what they were going for. And then, of course, they give give a little nod to the death of Superman by having his cape torn and flapping in the wind. And the vision ends with Ilana just kind of laughing maniacally, kind of like a version of her we haven't remotely seen and that she's been masking, with Waller coming back into reality from the vision, absolutely terrified by what she's witnessed. And when the camera even turns back to Cersei's face, she's in a flood of tears, showing potentially some sincerity to her showing Waller this vision, as it doesn't just terrify Waller, but Cersei as well. Now, of course, as Flag said, she could be just pulling some kind of Jedi mind trick on Waller, so the possibility of Cersei trolling does absolutely need to be entertained, as, you know, I would suggest the same thing, but Waller seems to think and feel as though it was legitimate. It's quite an impossible situation to be in from where Waller's standing. Like, do you A, believe this vision, knowing if you don't, countless death and destruction is on the way, but at the same time, kind of B here, given that this is a magic-induced vision, it could, of course, be complete crap. And how do you know whether to trust it or not? Like, how does Waller feel as though it's legitimate? I'm sure she feels as though it's legitimate because it was a very visceral experience, but that isn't exactly proof. And so in this moment, we have Waller call in Dr. McPherson, a professor at Terrebonne University, the world's leading scholar on Themyscira, and she says that all of her research tells her that Cersei is in fact legitimately clairvoyant, and on Themyscira it is taken as a fact. To the point of even when 10 years ago Cersei warned the women of Themyscira of a tsunami that would kill thousands. Now many, but not all of the islanders on Themyscira took refuge inland, but then the major tsunami did indeed hit within an hour of what Cersei predicted, and those who took refuge survived, and those who did not survive. Now, ever since then, she goes on to detail that her talents have fallen more often on the less altruistic side, and Waller then asks, why do you think what she just did to me isn't on the less altruistic side? And what she answers here, I find interesting, because I guess it's like an answer they're trying to give you to kind of back this up through McPherson saying she's clairvoyant, she's not able to imagine futures. I don't see how what she showed you could be anything other than genuine. So I guess her argument is such that if she's shown you a vision through her magic of the future, it is what it is, a literal vision, and it's to be taken as such. But I was kind of still sat here like, but she could still tamper with that, could she not? You know, still do a fake vision through her magic, despite her having the ability of clairvoyance. Either way, though, in this moment, Waller orders Flag to gather the commandos and head back to Pokolistan and kill the princess. And I thought that was, I mean, I get it, she's in quite a risky situation where you need to make decisions, but that's such a big decision that it could start a war if you're wrong. And you're buying that Cersei, despite her clairvoyance, is showing you an accurate vision that she didn't screw with or get in your head with at all. Do you know what I mean? But hey, she makes that decision, and Flag takes major issues with the United States being in the business of killing people who haven't committed crimes yet, kind of like Minority Report. He also asks if she's so clairvoyant, why didn't she know that Weasel would beat the crap out of her or Phosphorus would burn her face off? And McPherson says that clairvoyants don't usually have control over what bits of the future they see. And I wanted to cover that little tidbit because people have been taking issue with Cersei being beaten by Weasel, and I have to admit, I do regret not talking about that in my previous review. Now, Gunn did say this, that in the DCU, Cersei must use her hands to create spells. Weasel is superhumanly fast and incredibly strong, and he momentarily disabled her ability to use her hands. So the thing is here, I'm a bit on both sides about it. I get what he's saying, and Cersei, arguably, despite how powerful she is in the comics, is like still a person with perception and can be taken by total surprise, right? And just be, you know, you have a Weasel in your face with superhuman strength and superhumanly fast and, you know, scratching you up, your costume, your suit. So that is an argument to believe in terms of being overwhelmed. But there is a part of me that still thinks in that panic, she would be able to just use her hands to teleport away. I know some people view that as a nitpick, but yeah, it's an interesting thing because I saw a lot of discussion about that. A lot of Cersei fans being like, nah, what the hell? They've completely nerfed Cersei. But I do see the other side. but I also see the other side, so let me know what you think there. Now, Flag is desperately trying to appeal to Waller, but she says bumping uglies with someone doesn't mean you're infallibly able to know someone's character, and so he kind of like walks out, and it's time to find a new leader. And so we cut back to the Creature Commandos getting lunch, and the bride is approached by John Economos to basically lead the Creature Commandos. And this is what I mean. She is, alongside Rick Flag Sr., essentially the lead in the show, and she is more than capable. So meanwhile, we have Flag trying to inform the princess that her life is in danger, but he doesn't have any luck. And speaking of luck, he has Eric Frankenstein coming after him in a rage, thinking that he's been trying it on with the bride. And we all know what happened to the last guy who actually did that. He ended up getting split in two. So we get a cool brawl in this moment between them both. And again here, like, fair play to Rick Flag Sr. He manages to handle his own with Eric. And I mean, can you imagine Eric Frankenstein in real life, in person? He would be so intimidating, so crazy tough to defeat, and you can only imagine how strong he is after seeing how badass the bride was, taking on all of the sons of Themyscira and Cersei herself. So again, the fact that Flag did this was quite a huge feat. And after some crying from Eric, Flag tells him that the bride and him have nothing going on between them, and she's not his type, and he says, and I love David Harbour and the way he plays Eric Frankenstein here, that she's everyone's type and so are you. And then the scene just changes completely from this moment onwards, with Flag making Eric some tea, and Eric just gushes over hearing Flag's story and kind of mini romance with Alana, even comparing it to Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic, then comparing his own relationship with the bride to when Harry met Sally, explaining how he views their situation with the bride as playing these little fetch me games. So naturally, Flag kind of thinks, you know, maybe we can help each other, and Eric suddenly calls him his best friend, which, you know, despite how strange Eric is and how opposites these two seem, they are a good dynamic from this moment onwards. Now, meanwhile, with Weasel, to end off this episode, we have Elizabeth present all of the photographs of the children to him. But he's kind of too busy grooming himself. But after a moment, he looks at the photographs, and we cut back to the flashback of when he first met them. And we see him hiding in a bush, and the kids come over to him, and they feed him. And we cut back to him looking very, very feelsy, but then he just snaps back into Weasel mode. Now, what I like about what the show does here is that they added in that little detail of when his eyes, like his pupils, are out to the side, but when he kind of comes to, like, serious Weasel mode, they go right in the middle, and it's kind of like he's normal, and he can actually have a sense of normalcy about him, or tap more into his humanity, if you will. But this is when things get really messed up, but not in the ways I think a lot of people were expecting ever since we heard about what Weasel did back in the Suicide Squad movie. So we see Weasel playing with all the kids in the schoolyard, and one of the kids realize that the door to the school is open still, and they all want to go in. Now, a stroller by notices Weasel, who, you know, if you saw Weasel playing with a bunch of kids, you probably would think, oh god, like, I need to do something about this. So he interprets Weasel as a danger to them, and he rushes off to call the police and get his gun. Now, all the kids and Weasel head into the basement, and they bring that teacher's bottle of alcohol, and one of the kids gets some matches out, and the bottle smashes, and this ends up in a fire. And before you know it, ladies and gentlemen, that old man comes back with his gun. Poor Weasel kind of doesn't understand what the heck's going on, and the guy just starts shooting, and it hits that fuel tank, which just leaks everywhere, and everything explodes. But not before Weasel jumping in just in the nick of time to save that girl. Now, as Weasel comes to, all of the kids, and this is like severely messed up, are on the floor dead or dying, except that one girl, and he does everything he can possibly do to save her. And the way that they just cut in the score, like the music, at this part of the episode. It just really got me, and it really emphasized the tragedy behind Weasel's character. The police then arrive on the scene and just see him dragging the girl by her clothes to safety, and they just see it as, oh god, he's gonna eat her alive, and start firing on him. And every single turn Weasel took in where he could easily just go out there and save her from the fire and the building collapsing, there was a cop who appeared to fire at him. So he searches and he searches for another opportunity to escape. He finds it, but then more bullets are flying at him, and he actually even gets shot quite a few times. And it's because of those cops stopping Weasel that that poor girl gets buried under the rubble and dies. And the last shots we see are of Weasel just screaming and screeching out of desperation as he looks at the girl who extends her hand out to him for help. And so Weasel is just completely innocent. Like the lawyer, his lawyer, Elizabeth Bates, is right. And now you can see why, even as we go back over the past few episodes, why Weasel liked hanging around with Alana, because she reminded him of playing with that girl with the same hair color in the schoolyard. And it's just like all so tragic that Weasel is still haunted by this in present day, just given by the very fact that he's having a nightmare about it as the Creature Commandos arrive in Pekolistan once more. So I think they did such a good job with the sad tale of Weasel's origin. And I know Sean Gunn was mostly just screeching as Weasel in the voiceover booth, but he did a great job at like conveying the Weasel emotions in the screeching ways. And I've seen that moment just a few times now, and every single time without fail it hits me and actually gets me emotional, where I think, nah, not this time, but then you see it in the music and how he's desperately trying to get out of there. The whole situation with him is just so misrepresented, and also just how that girl could have been saved. In the whole flashback, she trusted Weasel to get her out of there, and ever since, if you think about it, Weasel has just been sent out there to die on missions when there's no real evidence saying that he did any of this, which is why, of course, we have his lawyer fighting for him. So I guess hashtag justice for Weasel in this video's comment section. But overall with episode 4, guys, I would say episode 4 really firmly and solidly cements Creature Commandos to be in a very engaging place plot-wise for the 3 episodes left ahead, as it's now been a massive twist with Cersei's vision, which just makes the stakes a lot higher. There's conflict with Flag. You now have Eric Frankenstein a lot more in the story, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And on top of serving all of that in present day, they're able to develop character backstories really well, which just makes you more connected to the characters 10 times more than you were able to with the lineup in episode 1. And then to top that off, there was a bunch of really cool Easter eggs for the DCU. And despite that being a vision, as I keep saying, it still, for me, gave some really cool canonical looks and acknowledgements at characters that are technically out there in the present day DCU, from Grodd to Starfire to Wonder Woman's design. Despite that being a vision of a doomed future, it's still freaking cool. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts on all of that. But that is everything from me in today's Creature Commandos episode recap, review, and breakdown. I guess future me now needs to go and rush to watch or edit the Superman trailer, which is just crazy because right now it's Monday for me. But either way, busy day for me today, and I can't wait to talk about more DCU things with you next week with Creature Commandos and, man, the fallout of whatever we're about to see with Superman. Go ahead and leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to let me know your theories about what happened this episode, everything with the vision with Cersei, Alana, what all of this means going forward and rippling out. But I'm gonna love you and leave you. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see all of you guys with the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.